Of all the stories I have shared on this channel, this tale is by far the most incredible I have ever heard, and had the honor to participate in. This story is about an event that took place nearly 2,000 years ago that changed the fate of our entire universe. This story has never before been told in the history of this entire civilization, although the legends of this story can be found in our historical records. I'm told this event is of universal significance, and some of the information in this film is being revealed for the first time. Buddha and others involved in this story want me to go into a lot of detail about this event, so they are giving me a lot of information to share. You might need a set of cliff notes to keep track of all of it. This story also reveals the true story of how Buddhism first spread into China and became a world religion. This story was woven together with messages I have received from many of the people involved. This is by far the craziest story I have ever shared. So sit back and hear the story of how Buddha became the world teacher. The Great Earth Experiment was designed to create the ascension of the universe. I have spoken of this experiment in other films on this channel, including Secrets of Ancient India and the Mahabharata, and Oracles of the Ascension. You can learn more about the Earth Experiment in those films. In the Great Earth Experiment, I hear there have been many tests. There was a final exam as well. The final exam took place on Earth soon after the time when Jesus Christ was incarnated. The final exam was both meant for Earth humans and the Galactic Federation. For the ascension to be achieved, this test needed to be successfully completed. It was the most difficult of all the tests, as it was the final exam. The terms of the test were this. A golden age had to be created in one of the most violent places on the earth. Only after the successful birth of a golden age would the rest of the test be given. The next part of the test would be given to the souls of the Kali Yuga, the youngest human soul group, which first came into being around 2800 BC. If they passed this test, the ascension of the universe would move forward. If they failed the test, they were going to be completely eliminated from the universe forever. The Earth Experiment would end, and the Kali Yuga soul group would no longer exist. There were over 3.5 billion Kali Yuga souls, so this was no small matter. The Kali Yuga soul group is by far the largest of the human soul groups. The Kali Yuga was designed to be the time of chaos and immorality, when decency and morals were at an all-time low. The youngest souls born into this age were the least evolved beings in the universe by design. The Kali Yuga was the final phase of the Great Earth Experiment. It lived up to its name as the time of immorality. As the years between 2800 BC and 0 AD were unimaginably violent and brutal, all the worst horrors found on Earth were part of daily life in this era. The young souls had a great unwillingness to learn new things, and they were very traumatized by the violence, which was mostly all they had ever known. Often they refused to learn. Because of this and their violent nature, they were being considered for complete elimination. The test was to discover if they were willing to learn new things. The place on Earth that was chosen was China. China was a place of constant warfare and violence, currently in the midst of a major civil war when these events took place. The original plan was for Jesus Christ to give the test. He had plans to go to China to bring Christianity there, help with the birth of the Golden Age, and then give the Chinese people this great test, which he would be designing himself. After he was crucified, he still had plans to do the test. The details of how this happened would take too long to explain, and is another tale altogether. Yeshua simply says that he left one body and entered another. But needless to say, he was alive at the time this test took place. The story of his resurrection is true, although not well understood. One day, Jesus was talking to his friend Buddha in the etheric realm. Buddha was his disciple in ancient India. In that time, Buddha was named Arjuna, the great Hindu general of the forces of light. Jesus told Buddha about the test, which he was planning to do. A couple days later, Buddha asked him if he could do the test. Instead of spreading Christianity, he would spread a religion which he had created specifically for the Kali Yuga, which was Buddhism. Due to the extreme importance of this test, Jesus wasn't sure about letting him do it, and said he deliberated over this decision for months. It was the most difficult decision of his life. He said it was one of the only times in which he could not discover the right path. He could never decide what to do. Finally, he just decided to let go of it and let Buddha do it. He said he felt the hand of Great Spirit in there somewhere, and he decided to have faith. Buddha was given the go-ahead to design the test and administer it. However, he was warned. If the test failed, he would be subject to a very long and heavy karmic debt, which he would have to pay back over many lifetimes. He agreed to these terms and prepared to do the test himself. During the conversations which led to the writing of this film, many secrets were uncovered about this event. One of these secrets was that Buddha had been asked to do the test by Great Spirit himself. However, he was not to reveal this fact to Yeshua, which is how Jesus is best known today. Great Spirit had decided the Galactic Federation should do this test by themselves, without divine help. This test was theirs to achieve, which was part of the role they are to play with humanity in the after times. Therefore, Buddha, who is a starseed, was chosen to do this test instead of Yeshua. This revelation was in itself a deep lesson for Yeshua, who learned it was no longer his job to do everything himself, including tests like these. It was time for another to step forward, in this case, his former disciple. There was another reason Buddha was chosen. I have been told by Great Spirit himself that in the entire universe, only Buddha believed in the Kali Yuga soul group. Out of the countless different beings, races, and peoples out there, only he believed they would pass the test. After all the horrors of the past couple thousand years, everyone else all over the universe was questioning the very existence of the Kali Yuga soul group. After Jesus Christ had been crucified, even he was fed up with them. Not that he would ever have sacrificed them, or not done his best to save them, if he had done the test himself. But he was not in the proper space to do it at that time. This has been told to me by Yeshua for inclusion in this movie. There was much debate when Buddha was chosen, as this was such a challenging test. The Kali Yuga were uncontrollable and unpredictable, and a failure would not only end the Earth experiment and the ascension that was to come along with it, but would end an entire soul group altogether. And there were many who loved them, even if they didn't believe in them. The choice of Buddha was actually rather contentious, according to what I have heard from a few, including Buddha himself, who says he had a reputation. If you want to know why, check out the Mahabharata. Many were debating his choice for such an important test, when it had been believed Jesus Christ would be the one doing the test. This was before Buddhism had taken off as a world religion. The historical records of this event can be found in the legends of the White Horse Temple, which is the first and oldest Buddhist monastery in China. If you look up the tales of what happened there, some of the details of this story are remembered. However, its significance has not been truly understood. By the time Buddha had agreed to be the master of this test, it was already in process. Many different beings had already incarnated into China and were working towards creating a new golden age. There were many rules to their participation in this test, who could be a part of it, and what was required. As this test was being given by the Galactic Federation, many starseeds incarnated into China to assist. I'm told about 2,000 approximately signed on to help in assisting with the creation of a golden age in many different roles. Some were ministers to the emperor, some were soldiers, others were astrologers, monks, artisans, or inventors working on new technologies. The incarnation of starseeds into human bodies has been going on throughout the Kali Yuga. However, this incarnation for them was different in one key way. Every single starseed that incarnated to help with this great test would be receiving negative personal karma that would follow them for many lifetimes if the test failed. This was due to the seriousness of this test, and was possibly a rule to make sure every starseed put their full efforts into their work to bring about a successful test. The Galactic Federation of Light was to receive much negative karma itself if the test failed. However, in the event of a successful test, much negative karma of the many races of starseeds who participated would be balanced. The starseeds who participated were primarily those who were karmically tied to the Earth. These include the Pleiadians, Andromedans, Arcturians, Lyrans, Sirians, and Orions, although there were others present as well. All these soul groups had karma from the Earth experiment to balance out. These starseeds were the bravest and most accomplished of their respective races, and they took a great risk to their souls to participate in this test. The rules of the test stated that all of the kings or leaders involved had to have been from the elder human groups, which are the Lemurians and Atlanteans. The test itself was meant to be given by a Lemurian whose role was to lead in the creation of a golden age. Lemurians are considered to be guardians of humanity, which is one reason they were chosen. It was also part of the test that the king who ushered in the golden age and gave the test should be close to the age of the Kali Yuga, a young unascended soul, and have no knowledge of the test whatsoever, which would make this test much more of a challenge. There was only one soul group of Lemurians who were unascended, the absolutely youngest Lemurian soul group, in which I am a member. Yes, you guessed it. It was me who was chosen to be this emperor in China, which is why I am the one chosen to tell this story. I incarnated in China as Liu Yang, who is known today as Emperor Ming of Han. I was chosen to do this role back in Mu, approximately 100,000 years ago, I am told. It was the one known as Mother Mary who chose me to do this test. At the time, she was a Pleiadian. She said she chose me simply because she thought I could do it. In other words, this test had been planned for a long time. This role required that I go through a rigorous training process over 2 or more lifetimes in preparation. The movies on this channel called Secrets of Ancient India and the Mahabharata and Druidia Part 1, History of the Druids, were the 2 lifetimes in which I was actively training to do this test. In ancient India, Christ, also known as Krishna, arranged that I would be chosen king out of all my brothers so I could get some practice at being a king before the test. Then Christ himself trained me in how to be a good leader. For to become a king of a large country is quite a challenge. I would say it was a crucial part of my being prepared for such a difficult role. Druidia, who was Mother Mary incarnated as a druid, made sure I would become chief of our clan following her. She made me her successor as well as her disciple, so that she could train me in a leadership role and work with me spiritually to prepare me. As an unascended earth seed, I would receive no personal karma whatsoever if it failed. However, there was Lemurian karma to be cleared. If the test were successful, all the remaining karma of the Lemurians would be cleared at once. The next part of this story is spoken of in great detail in the novel The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien, who is a Lemurian himself. In this book, the elves are the Lemurians, and the Atlanteans are the elder races of men. For more on this subject, see the movie The True Story of the Order of Merlin on this channel. The Silmarillion is a mostly true, although brief, account of the history of the Lemurian and Atlantean people. I hear it is very accurate, although many details have been changed to avoid the mentioning of extraterrestrials and advanced technology. The karma I would be clearing, if the test was successful, was actually the karma from the story of the Silmarils. I'm told that was a true story as well, although only part of the story. The karma from those days was still not entirely cleared at the time of this test. The Atlanteans also participated as leaders in this great effort. Atlanteans were to be both my parents and my children, and they were to play an equal, if different, role. One of the reasons for this is so the Lemurians and Atlanteans would be required to work together. These two civilizations warred with each other for many eons, and this was their opportunity to reestablish relations by working together on such a challenging task. My father, who was an Atlantean, was given a very difficult role. His role was to unify China as emperor, which was in total chaos after the Xin clan and a dictator named Wang Mang declared himself emperor and dissolved the Han Empire. Only a great warrior and leader could have unified China, as China was a very large, chaotic, and violent region of the world. For those of you familiar with the Silmarillion, the one chosen for this role was none other than the son of Húrin, Túrin Turambar, who really existed and whose story in that book, and in the book The Children of Húrin, is true. He was one of the greatest Atlantean warriors and leaders in their history, and he incarnated into China to unite it. He was Liu Xiu, also known today as Emperor Guangwu. His consort, as well as my mother and future empress, was also a part of the stories in the Silmarillion. She was an Atlantean known as Nienor, who was the sister of Turambar and daughter of Húrin in that book. She was known in China as Lin Yihua, who was to become Empress Guangli. My son, who was known as Liu Da, or later Emperor Shang, was an Atlantean as well. His role was to keep a golden age going after I passed on, so what was being seeded would have a chance to flower. I was told that Liu Da was also one of the children of Húrin, and I learned to my great surprise that I too had the dubious honor of being one of the children of Húrin myself. The curse of the children of Húrin is true, and there was a connection between this test and that curse. I'm told that it happened that way in order to give the children of Hurin some payback. All of the emperors in China for 3 generations, and 1 empress as well, were once under the curse of the children of Hurin. We suffered one of the darkest curses ever done in the history of the earth, and this was our chance for spiritual victory over this curse. The true story of the children of Hurin, in brief, is this. Anyone who incarnates as a sibling of one of the children of Hurin will become a target for the wrath of the Dark Lord forever. From then on, that person will be considered one of the children of Hurin forever, and any of his or her future siblings will also fall under that curse. The Dark Lord made an oath that he would torment the children of Hurin forever. This curse has now been broken, and the Dark Lord has been removed from the world, which happened during the events of the Mahabharata. In other spiritual teachings, he has been called Satan. The Atlanteans had much karma to balance throughout Atlantean history. The Atlantean emperors and empress, as well as the many other incarnated Atlanteans, were all working together to balance the remaining Atlantean karma. They were also not required to suffer personal karma in the case of a failed test, as they are Earth seeds and not star seeds. Many of the different starseeds incarnated to help with this test knew exactly why they were there. My parents, Liu Shu and Lin Yuhua, also knew exactly why they were incarnated in China and what they were meant to do. I had conversations with both of them in the writing of this film. They are both incarnated now as 5th-dimensional Atlanteans. My father and mother, the Emperor and Empress, say now that this was their most difficult and challenging lifetime. Considering what we know about them and the story of the children of Hurin, this is a powerful claim. However, I have heard this from many of the other starseeds who were there as well, who shared their stories with me for this film. When my father was born, China, which had been united under the Han Empire for 2 centuries, was in complete chaos. As a child, he witnessed the brutality and incompetence of the Qin dynasty. As an adult, he became a warrior and eventually a general, and was one of many possible heirs to the throne of China. After years of infighting and many rebellions, including many different people declaring themselves emperor and trying to reunite China, with themselves as supreme ruler, eventually Liu Shu declared himself emperor and began to work towards a reunited Han dynasty. Once he was emperor, he and Yin Lihua began to look for an heir to the throne. They both understood this successor was the one who was supposed to usher in the Golden Age and give the test. However, they were never told whom it was meant to be. They had to figure it out for themselves. I was born as the eldest son of Lihua, and my mother says that after observing me as a child, they both suspected that I was the one who was meant to do the test. Unfortunately, there was already a crown prince, as my father had many wives, due to the customs of emperor in that time to have many concubines and political marriages. It took many years before they replaced the crown prince and made me his successor. I spoke to General Ma Huan, who is one of the most famous generals in China. His nickname is General who calms the waves. He is a Syrian and was a starseed in that lifetime, representing the Syrians. He was a big part of my father's military successes. He said the unification of China was much more difficult than even the stories express. There was total chaos in China at that time, and it took many years of war for this unification to become a reality. He said that me and my father made a great team, and we were able to make much progress after I was chosen his successor and old enough to participate in the affairs of the kingdom. Christ had taught me in India to read the hearts of men and to know when they are being honest. I would listen in on conversations he would have with military leaders and warlords, and judge if they were telling the truth or lying. My father, Liu Shu, says the people we spoke with were more scared of me than him eventually, for I could often tell if they were being honest or lying. People would fall apart when their lies were discovered, and my father was able to get the truth out of them easily after that. He was very persuasive. Eventually, they stopped lying altogether, and my father, his advisors, and generals were able to use diplomacy rather than warfare to bring different kingdoms together into one unified whole. It was through Ma Wan that I met my future wife, Empress Ma, who was his daughter. The history books claim she was my consort at a very young age, but that is incorrect. Only when she was a fully grown woman did I ask Ma Wan, with great respect, if I could make his daughter my consort and later my empress. She was an Andromedan starseed, representing that race, and became very influential in the running of the country. After my father died in 57 AD, I became Emperor of China. At first I was rather overwhelmed with the incredible complexities of being a Chinese monarch, and wasn't sure how to proceed. It took me a few months to adjust and get the hang of it. China was still not unified, and I was required as emperor to finish the job. I had been long trained by my father, and so I just took over what he had been doing and relied on my excellent ministers. I had many wise ministers who were there to help me create a golden age. There were Orion, Syrian, Andromedan, Lyran, Arcturian, and Pleiadian advisors, as well as other starseeds who were helping in various capacities. The court was full of starseeds in that time, and so was my family, and everyone knew why they were there but me. They were all a big part of the great work of creating a golden age. I relied on my excellent ministers to guide me, especially in matters of warfare. China was not yet unified, and the work to bring peace to a place of constant warfare was ongoing. I spoke to one of the war ministers in the court, who is in Orion now. He was also war minister when my father was emperor. He was there to help me with all things related to war, as Orions are masters of warfare. I relied on him heavily for military strategy, so that I could focus more on peaceful things that would improve the people's living conditions. I also spoke to my starseed sister, who is a Lyran now. She was there to help with the evolution of China, as well as to guide me personally, and says that I was always surrounded by starseeds to help me. She says it was a very intense lifetime for her. 6 months after I became king, I had a dream of the Buddha for the first time. This dream is well known in the history of the White Horse Temple. I am paraphrasing what the Buddha said to me. I am the Buddha. I have come here to help you awaken. Now is the time for you to remember, for you to awaken to who you were and who you are and who you will be. I wish for you to bring my teachings to this land. Go out and seek for me. The night I had that dream, I also received a DNA upgrade. This allowed me to hear him telepathically from then on. At first I was rather skeptical, as I had never heard of the Buddha and wasn't about to trust the running of an entire kingdom to some being I had just met in a dream. In addition, my higher self was waiting for a man named Jesus Christ to appear and give me direction of what to do. I went to see my brother Liu Ying the next day and told him the dream. He said that we should seek the astrologer to discuss it. We met in a library full of mystical arcana, and the astrologer told me he had heard of the Buddha before. He said there had been omens when Buddha was born in India that he would someday come to China and spread his religion. Next I spoke to my mother, who was now Empress Dowager. My mother talked to my brother, Liu Ying, who was a Pleiadian starseed and in on the test. My mother then convinced me that Buddha was trustworthy and I should listen to him. My mother and I had a very good relationship, and she was also very influential in the running of the Chinese Empire as Empress Dowager. Liu Ying suggested that a party be sent to India to seek news of this Buddha and perhaps to discover some of his books or stories. Liu Ying volunteered to go himself. I agreed with his suggestions and appointed people to make this journey with him. Soon he left for India with a search party. They did not return for many years. At that point, Buddha became my guide and began to help me in the running of the Chinese Empire. Buddha played a big role in the creation of the Golden Age. It was a great relief to have a guide in this most difficult role I had to take on. He was present in much of my day-to-day emperor duties and decisions, helping guide me towards the best decisions for the kingdom. This helped me to become a better emperor and to steer China in the right direction towards this golden age. It was not actually the Buddha personality that I was speaking to, although it was Buddha's higher self. I was speaking to his Arjuna personality, the Indian king and warrior, from the stories in the Mahabharata. I first met Arjuna in India and got to know him well. So to make me feel relaxed in his presence, I was speaking to Arjuna, although he always called himself the Buddha. Also, the running of an empire, including the warfare that went along with it, was something Arjuna had much more experience in than Buddha did in his own lifetime. Besides helping me run the empire, Arjuna's role as guide was also to help me evolve spiritually, so I could be a good emperor. Surprisingly, he did not even teach me Buddhism, which was a spirituality meant for the Kali Yuga. As he told me in the conversations which led to this film, it wouldn't do for me to renounce everything, give away all my riches, and walk the land as an empty monk. After all the hard work it took to get me here, this is not what was required of me. He taught me instead about the Kshatriya code from Hindu wisdom, and many lessons from the Bhagavad Gita, which he co-wrote with Christ. This was knowledge I had already learned in India, and so he reminded me of all these lessons, which was designed specifically for leaders, and also for Lemurian warriors. For those of you familiar with the Mahabharata, I was sent along on a journey with Arjuna for an entire year, which is chronicled in the story of the Ashvamedha sacrifice, or the Book of Horse Sacrifice. On this journey, he taught me the Kshatriya code. Neither of us realized at the time this would be connected to our experiences working together in China. As I explained in the Secrets of Ancient India movie, I was one of the many writers of Mahabharata. I recently learned I was the one who wrote that chapter as well. Arjuna also helped me to find compassion. When I was a druid in Scotland, working with Druidia, who, as I have said, initially chose me to do this role, she trained me by making me her replacement as chief of the clan when she stepped down. She taught me to have compassion and consider everyone in the clan, no matter who they were, to make everyone feel important and welcomed. He helped me remember this lesson and to start doing that with everyone in the kingdom. He also helped me to work through much trauma. The beginning of the Kali Yuga was incredibly brutal and violent. My 2 previous lifetimes, before I became Emperor Yang, were so horrific that Great Spirit deleted them entirely from my higher self's memory before I incarnated. This is a very unusual gift, and it was done so those experiences would not influence my giving this test. However, trace memories remained, and he helped me to heal from these, as well as things I had experienced in this lifetime. 3 years after I started working with him, I began sharing messages from Buddha with the people. In this moment, he first began directly communicating with the people of China, with me acting as telepathic interpreter. I began giving speeches in which I included messages and wisdom from Buddha to the people. These were the first Buddhist teachings that ever came to China, and the first I personally learned as well. I told them he was a friendly spirit who wanted to help, and the people seemed to appreciate his messages. At the time, China was mainly influenced by Confucianism and Taoism. Buddhism was meant to be the next step after Taoism, but the Taoists did not know that. The Taoists held great power in ancient China, and they grew alarmed when Emperor Yang began sharing messages from Buddha. Some of them had become corrupted. Others feared losing their power or feared change. They were hostile to the new connection between Buddha and Emperor Yang. They started harassing me and telling me to stop spreading spiritual teachings from someone other than Taoist or Confucian teaching. They drove me crazy, constantly complaining about me sharing messages from Buddha and telling me to stop, eventually warning me to stop, or else they said they would take steps to deal with me. This is where Arjuna first got the brilliant idea for the scenario that was to be the final test given to the Kali Yuga. Approximately 10 years after leaving for India to search for news of Buddha, the search party finally returned. The search was successful, and they brought back 2 Buddhist monks, Kasyapa Montagna and Dharma Ratna, and a white horse which carried Buddhist sutras, images, and other proof of his existence. History records they carried 6 sutras, including the Sutra of 42 chapters, the only Buddhist text they brought to China that still survives today. These were the first Buddhist writings to arrive in China. I have spoken to both of these monks, who were starseeds, as well as my brother Liu Ying, and received more information from them about this legendary journey. The journey was very difficult from China to India. They had to travel thousands of miles, cross many rivers, scale snow-covered mountains, and ride through hostile lands. The monks were living in a monastery in India, teaching Buddhism. They received telepathic messages from Buddha one day, asking if they would go to China to administer a test. The full details of the test were explained to them, including the karmic debt to be paid in case of failure. They both thought long and hard about this, both because of the karma, the uncertainty of the test, and the very long and grueling journey they would need to undertake to get to China. They were also unsure about the new Chinese emperor and how he would react to their visit. They said they finally agreed to do the test because of the love they had for Buddha. The Chinese search party was led to find the Indian monks through signs and messages, and they all finally connected years after they left. After a rest, they began the long journey back to China again. They arrived in China in 68 AD, exhausted from the long journey, and we exchanged warm hugs. I said it was good to see them returning safely, and marveled at how long they took. I looked upon the two monks with amazement. They seemed wise and very mysterious. The horse they had brought with them survived the very difficult journey, and I was very impressed with the horse when we first met. Therefore, when a monastery was built for the monks, it was called the White Horse Temple in honor of the horse. My brother, Liu Ying, was amazed to see the changes that had happened in the land while he was gone. A golden age was in its infancy at that point, and many, many changes had been made. After they had rested a while, I spoke with the monks. There was a translator present. These monks said they wanted to introduce Buddhism to the Chinese people. They asked if they could stay on and translate their sutras into the Chinese language. I asked them to show me a sign or prove to me who they were. They requested all of us hold hands, and then a beam of light seemed to come from the sky. Above the beam of light, I saw a figure, which was the Buddha. Impressed, I said I would have built for them a temple where they could live and teach and do this work of translation. They were exhausted from the long journey. Until it was built, I would arrange a comfortable place for them to stay, so they could regain their strength. After the White Horse Temple was built, the Buddhist monks moved in. The Taoists were furious about the construction of a Buddhist temple, and that situation was on the verge of getting out of hand. The two monks then suggested that we do a test for the Taoists to pacify them. We would collect Taoist writings and Buddhist writings and put them on a pedestal at opposite ends of the temple gates. Then we would light both texts on fire. Whichever text survived the fire would be the spirituality I would give patronage to as emperor. If the Buddhist writings survived, I was to offer the opportunity for the Taoists to become Buddhist monks. If the Taoist text survived, we would know Taoism was the true spirituality. I agreed to do this, not understanding this was the test Buddha had come up with, the final test of the Earth experiment. I had to get a minimum of 50 souls from the Kali Yuga to sign their name on a list to become a Buddhist monk for 2 years. If 50 or more signed on, then the ascension of the universe would move forward. If 49 or less people signed their name to the list, then the Earth experiment would be aborted. As I was told, the problem with the young Kali Yuga souls, they refused to learn new information. The test was simply to determine if they were willing to learn a new spirituality. It was not expected that they give up Taoism or become Buddhist forever. It didn't even matter if they stuck with it for the whole 2 years. They just had to agree to try it. It had to be 50 from the youngest human soul group who signed on. Nobody other than that soul group was eligible, although all present at the test would receive the opportunity. As the test grew nearer, The monks worked with me a good deal, preparing me to give it. And Buddha worked with me as well, helping me to have the proper heart space for it. The entire universe knew about the test and were waiting for the results. The Arcturians, who have been a part of the Earth experiment from the beginning, and whose starseeds were present in China at this time, said what happened with the White Horse Temple test was one of the most traumatic experiences that the Star Nations as a whole have ever gone through. Reportedly, this moment was a trauma moment for the universe. The ascension of the universe all hinging upon 50 members of the youngest human soul group who had to agree to become Buddhists. It was known to most of the universe that if the test failed, all life on Earth would soon end as we had known it. The day of the test arrived. Everyone was praying that day. The people of Telos, Atlantis, Agartha, all the starseeds and Sasquatch on the Earth, and all the inner Earth civilizations were all praying, trying to raise the Earth's vibration. The entire universe and everyone in it was waiting with bated breath. As I have said earlier, only Buddha was optimistic out of every single being in the entire universe. Everybody else was expecting the Kali Yuga souls to fail this test. Although I have mentioned that I did not consciously know about the test, my higher self did know about it, and my higher self was also very skeptical that the test would be successful. In Luoyang, the Chinese capital, the mood that day was very tense, edgy, and uncomfortable. The Taoists were rowdy and full of anger, as they and many others gathered in front of the White Horse Temple. There were at least a couple thousand people there, gathered to see which scrolls burned. I made a brief speech, and then Buddhist writings and Taoist writings were placed on pedestals at opposite ends of the gate. A torch was applied to the Taoist texts, and they predictably burned to ash. Then a torch was applied to the Buddhist writings, and nothing happened. They did not light on fire, despite repeated attempts. I was absolutely shocked. I did not discover, until much later, that there was a Pleiadian ship above our heads, and the ship had beamed the Buddhist writings with an energy beam that protected them from the fire. This had been part of the plan all along. In other words, it was a setup. The people gathered there were absolutely stunned. For the first time since I could remember, the Taoists had nothing to say. And then a very strange thing happened to me. I blacked out. When I came back to myself, many minutes later, there was a line of people standing there, all waiting for the chance to sign their names to become Buddhist monks. I was completely disoriented. People were telling me I had just made a very wonderful speech. I was too confused and embarrassed to share with them that I did not remember making a speech at all. Everyone watching reported to me I went through a total shift in personality when I made my speech. From being stressed and edgy, I was suddenly radiating with loving consciousness. I did make a speech, which was partly Buddha's words translated from him, and partly my own words, or so I thought. In this speech, I invited everyone present to join me in embracing Buddhism completely. I invited the people to sign their names to a list of those who would become Buddhist monks for 2 years. Everyone who was watching, my parents from the beyond, Yeshua, and all those who were invited to observe, said I fully stepped into my power in that moment, and they were proud of me. Nobody watching knew what had really happened to me, as it was hidden from them. It turned out my role was only to help create the Golden Age, but not to administer the final test. I've been told this was far too big and important for one soul to do on his own. Hathor, at the request of Great Spirit, summoned my entire soul group of 1,200 young Lemurian souls. We were combined into one being, as we began when we were first created, before we split into separate souls. It was this combined being who entered my body, gave the speech, and administered the test. I know it sounds completely crazy, but that's what I've been told really happened. Hathor's involvement was the only divine help allowed for the entire test. I've been told it was done this way, in a sense, because we were offering the Kali Yuga a divine invitation on that day. When I returned to my body, I felt great wonder at the huge line of people waiting to become Buddhists. Those of my ministers who were invited to attend, including both the Indian monks, were all crying. I did not understand why. Yet I had a sense that I was witnessing a very beautiful thing, and this wonder stayed with me. 668 people signed their names that day. There were over 300 signatures from the Kali Yuga soul group alone, which was over 6 times the number needed. Those 300 plus souls of the Kali Yuga who agreed to learn the Buddhist way are known today as saviors of their soul group. Ultimately, the success of the final test rested on the shoulders of the Kali Yuga, and they passed the test in spectacular fashion. Word quickly went around that the test was successful. And not only a success, but we had over 6 times the signatures needed. It was a miracle. The ascension of the universe was going to take place. The Earth experiment was a success. I received several messages about what happened next. The universe erupted in joy. Angels sang in the divine realms, and they sang for many, many days. There was a tremendous celebration in the divine realm. The Lemurians say they went a bit crazy with joy. They partied for days in Telos. They hardly did any work, just had one huge party. They had spent 4.5 million years working on the Earth's ascension, and here was the completion, as well as the end of their collective karma. The Sasquatch had such an outpouring of joy as they have never experienced before. I was given a vision of how much joy was felt by all the Sasquatch on that day. They were overflowing with happiness, and they too partied for days. I was told the Sasquatch had been working on the Earth's ascension since the beginning of the experiment, from the time of the dinosaurs until this moment. This was a successful conclusion to all their hard work. The Atlanteans had parties for weeks and weeks after this test. They just kept partying and never stopped. They were also celebrating the end of a good part of their karma, which had been long and heavy. They felt so much joy they could hardly contain it. Many of the starseeds incarnated as humans in China all had their own parties as well. I was not invited to any of these parties, as I was never to know about the nature of the test. The entire universe celebrated for many days. I spoke to another member of the Galactic Federation who had starseeds in China in that time. This race did not give their name, but I was told that his planet had an ongoing party for an entire year after the successful outcome of the final exam. Arjuna says he was watching the Pleiadian parties, and they were equally incredible. When he went to check in with me back in China, he found me still very confused. I told him I did not remember giving the speech I was reported to have given, and he found this strange too. He asked about it and was told not to worry, as the test was a success, so he let it go, as it didn't seem to matter. I did not let it go, and I wondered about that moment for the rest of my life. I never figured out why I had no memory of that speech I gave. It always haunted me. All the star nations involved were now free from their Earth-based karma. From that moment on, the clock began ticking down towards the final ascension, which is now currently in progress. Much that was written about this time in Chinese history today is totally inaccurate, sometimes to the point of being completely ludicrous. I asked all those involved who have access to memories I do not, and they confirmed this. The events that took place in those times were not written down publicly until many hundreds of years later, in two books which are the only surviving record of these events. So they may be forgiven for lack of credible sources. I have heard the authors of the later Book of Han did not have the best intentions all the time while they were writing it, leaving out what suited their narrative, and they were not fans of Buddhism as well. For example, Liu Ying, my brother, was not a revolutionary, nor did he commit suicide. Liu Ying was murdered by corrupt Taoist officials, revenge for his role in bringing Buddhist teachings to China. This act set off a war between the Taoists and the royal court. The story of the bloody events that happened after his death is really the story of this long brewing animosity, erupting into violence and war. By the time Emperor Yang died, China had been more or less unified and had begun a relatively stable peace. Although the problems that led to the disintegration of the Han Dynasty were still there and would continue to plague it. It was currently in the middle of a golden age, which was to last throughout the reign of my son. Although Most members of the Galactic Federation and Lemurians had finished their earthly karma. The Atlanteans had not, and the task of continuing this karmic work was given to my son, Liu Da. He has been particularly praised for allowing Buddhism to thrive. Even though he was not a Buddhist, nor was he interested in Buddhism. Unlike so many Chinese emperors after him, he did not attempt to control what knowledge the people were allowed to learn. Considering he became emperor at age 18, when barely a grown man, this is impressive. Soon after Liu Da passed on, China began to decline, and the Golden Age was soon to come to an end. In my opinion, the Golden Age may have continued longer but for the ridiculous custom of putting children of former emperors on the throne as soon as the last one died. 18 is barely old enough to be emperor, but his son, Emperor He, ascended to the throne at the age of 9. Emperor He's son became emperor at the age of 1 year old. After the events at the White Horse Temple took place, I'm told that Buddhism grew wings. The monks began to translate the Buddhist texts they had brought into Chinese, and they began to hold classes in the White Horse Temple for the newly ordained Buddhist monks. I myself attended some of these classes. Meditation was taught, as well as Buddhist philosophy. By the time I had passed on, Buddhism was well underway into becoming a major religion in China, where it would soon spread throughout Southeast Asia. Another revelation that came from the writing of this film was when we learned that this successful conclusion of the test, and the fact that he was the only one to believe in the Kali Yuga in the entire universe, is what led to Buddha, or Maitreya as he would be known in the future, being given the role of world teacher for the New Age. It was right after this successful test that he was appointed this role by Great Spirit. He is taking over for Yeshua, who will be taking on a new role in the new Satya Yuga, the new golden age of the new earth. And now, Buddha himself, in his current incarnation, will be sharing messages and stories with you. Okay.
So it's the gathering. Which Christianity is love. Everyone that acknowledges and recognizes Joshua, they know love is love. The other ascended masters, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the ambassadors of love, if you will. Buddhists, the middle way, not too much, not too little. It's just like the Goldilocks zone. It's just right. You're looking for what fits just right. If you don't have enough, then you're not fulfilled. If you have too much, you've overindulged. But if you're right in the middle, then that gives you so much flexibility to be able to to do what you. It allows you to adapt. If you're fixed, not much change is going to happen. If you're cardinal, you're going to start it, but are you able to sustain it and see it through? if you're mutable, or you're able to adapt, but you still need to be able to, recognize, see it through, honor it. Commitment. Looky there. Commitment. For those that don't have the commitment, they look to, it's like being on the wagon and then jumping off the wagon. And then you say you're going to get back on the wagon, and you do good being on the wagon, but then you're tempted. You're tempted. And then, of course, just a little bit. I'll just get off the wagon for a little bit. And then you get off the wagon. But then you realize the wagon's way down there now. So you're running, trying to get back on the wagon. And as you're running, someone says, hey, what are you doing? I'm trying to get back on the wagon. Well, what do you want to do that for? Because it's, I'm tired of running. Okay, so, the wagon's what, a nice ride? Well, it can help you to rest, to rejuvenate, to get it. But if you jump off the wagon, sometimes you don't want to get back on the wagon. I'm good. I just want to see the sights. I want to explore. So being able to adapt, shift, change, perspective, review, reevaluate, reassess. Ooh, look at there. Take time out. What's working? Is it working? If it's working, keep doing it. If it's not working, hey, let's have a meeting of the minds. Is this working for you? Are you happy with this? You're not happy with this? It's okay to change this. Are you sure it's okay to change it? Absolutely. But our loved ones say we can't change it. Why? Because they were told they couldn't change it. That's the great thing about being able to see it from all sides. All sides. What's that saying? There's their side of the truth, your side of the truth, and then of course there's the truth. Everybody resonates differently with that. Oh wow. So here we are, attempting to address the fears. Now, true, forgiveness and love and joy, those right there, they will really help you out profoundly. They'll really help you out. They're the highest frequency and vibration. There's the goosebumps again. You know that, how can you tell? Because you can feel it. You get that tingling, that shiver down here. That you're like, hey, you're on to something. Allowing yourself to hear it. Allow yourself to hear it. Well, how do we know? Ask the right question. If you don't know where you're at, Siri, Google, Alexa, I'm lost. Can you help me find my way? Even sometimes, even the GPS is wrong. You ever notice that? GPS tells you to go here, turn here, and you're like, I can't turn there. There's no way I can turn there, but GPS is very insistent upon that. Well, that's one of those points where you just can't trust GPS. You got to do something different because if you listen to the GPS, it's trying to take you off the ledge of the Grand Canyon. We're not them and Louisiana up in here. So you got to switch that out and say, you know what? We're not going to listen to the GPS because it's not doing right. We got 4 bodies. Think about that for a second. You got 4 bodies. 4 bodies. Your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body. Okay, physical body's like an infant. It's like an infant. It's always like, don't put that in your mouth, but it wants it. It doesn't know any better, whether it's sugar, salt, fried, sweet. It wants it. It tastes good. It wants it. Okay. But you still got to be mindful of what you put into it. Body is the temple. I know, right? I know. Got feeling. The emotional body. The emotional body is like the teenager. It's like the teenager, like this middle child teenager. The one that's full of angst, where it doesn't have the responsibility placed on like the eldest, and it doesn't have gets whatever wants like the baby. So it's pretty much like Jan Brady. It's like Jan Brady, It's always Marsha. Or Sydney. So naturally the emotional body's gonna act out. It's gonna act out because it's a temperamental teenager. So it just drama. It's notice teenagers are always full of drama. My goodness, they're just hormones. But hey, hormones. Hey, It's like a factory coming into the body. It's like a factory coming into the body. Oh, which leads us to the mental body. The mental body is like the teenager that's now turned 18. It knows that it knows what it knows. You can't tell it no different. Can't tell me nothing different. I know exactly what I'm doing. But it only has about this much knowledge to it. What they say, a little bit of knowledge can make you real dangerous. Oh my goodness. See, that's what happened to me. I just a little bit of knowledge. Yeah, I'm fine. Come, take me back. Then when I got here and I said, how did I get here? Who brought me here? Whose fault is this? Because I agreed to it. Boy. You're always going to be able to. You're either the teacher or you're the student or you're both at the same time. Because you're learning and you're teaching. You're learning and you're teaching at the same time. It's very possible for the teacher to be the student and very possible for the student to be the teacher. Because that's, hey, your higher self and your egoic self. Egoic self doesn't want to listen to nobody. See, I excluded the egoic self because you have 4 bodies, but then the egoic self is like, how would we equate that? Half brother, sister, step brother, step sister. It's the one where it thinks it knows better. It thinks it knows better. Oh my goodness, it don't know better. But it's not going to tell you it don't know better. It absolutely knows better. It's not that we don't need the egoic self. It absolutely is there to protect, especially if you're out in the wilderness wandering around. And your higher self said, make sure you got your GPS. Make sure you got your, your supplies and whatnot. And your egoic says, we're fine. We'll make it back before then. And then you get lost. Then you start to panic. What am I going to do? It's getting dark. I don't know where I'm at. I have not watched enough episodes of Les Straussman Cyberman to know what I'm doing. So then you got to rely on your spirit guides and your higher self to get you back to where you're going. But that would mean that you need to listen. You need to listen. And not only listen, but to take action when you hear it. Ooh, when you get that ringing in the ear, you get the goosebumps or tingling sensation, back of your head, top of your head, forehead, all over you. Spirit is saying, you're on it, come on, let's follow through. Don't want to follow through though, because then we get discouraged or other people say, that's too hard, don't do that. It's like trying to get back on the wagon. It's so far ahead, you're never going to make it. But we're beings of incredible power. We can manifest anything we set our minds to. Oh, our minds, our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings. Is it in alignment? If it's in alignment, it's going to flow. If it's not in alignment, it's not going to flow. Which is the first indicator. Why is this not working? Not meant for your highest good. Now, unconditional love. Yahshua taught unconditional love. And she will be like, let's just destroy it and start all over with it. Because that works better for him. But it was like, look, let's just show him. There's a right way, wrong way. Look, it's either way is the right way or wrong way. It can be whatever it's going to be. But at least give them the option to choose. It's like a buffet. You got a little bit of everything. A la carte. Some of this, and this. And you're going to know what you like. And you're going to go back to that. And you're going to try that. I don't like that. And you're going to move away from that. But at least you tried it. You attempted it. So that way to know whether that works or doesn't work. Where's the goosebumps again? I always want to know, how do you know? It's like being on a yellow brick road. If you stay on the yellow brick road, it's going to lead you to Emerald City. It's going to lead you to Emerald City. So why, for the love of St. Peter, would you decide to get off this yellow brick road? Because you saw that, hey, there are apples over here. Let's go pick some of these apples. But those apples are attached to, some trees they don't like sharing their apples. So, you're going to get pulled off the road from time to time. Once upon a time, stay off the malls. Stay off the malls. Don't be on the malls. find yourself on the moors, guess what? You're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. But that's the great thing about it. When you find yourself lost, it's like you can call AAA. You know, your higher self, your angels, your guides, they will show up to help track you. You know, they'll get you unstuck. But the higher self is always the one that's like, it's the operator one to get you the assistance that you need. And your ego is like, I don't have time to be waiting on you. It's like, so what are you going to do? I'm going to do it myself. Egoic self says it's going to do it itself. It's like telling spirit that you're going to do it. So if you want to make spirit laugh, tell them your plans. If it ain't in alignment, it's not going to work. And guess what? Usually if you're in your egoic self, it is not going to work. It's like it's like playing Monopoly by yourself. You can buy all the properties, but heck, every time you land on something, are you paying yourself? You know, and plus it's long, too. It's long, you know, and everything, and you know, no. To be still. Oh, who's got time for that, right? You know, to meditate. You know, that oneness. Who's got time for oneness? You'd be amazed whenever you get some type of traumatic situation, that's all there to help you to find your purpose. I know it sounds crazy, right? But think about this. Have you ever noticed that when everything's nice and calm, everything flows, everything's tranquil, everyone gets along? It's almost like you said the serenity prayer, and everybody else said it too, and you're all like, yeah, this is nice, this is real nice. It's like being on one of those, I don't say your favorite chair, your favorite mattress, your favorite, seat. You know, it's just comfortable. It's like a good beanbag chair. So you just like, yeah, you sink into it. Goldilocks zone, you know, too hard, too soft, you know, doesn't just right. You gotta figure it out, right? So literally that means in order to do that, you must be given the opportunity. You have the opportunity to do something better than what you've done before. In a way, you know, hey, you know, the eightfold path. That's not too bad, not too shabby. You do too much, then you know, I ate too much, I drank too much, I did too much. How do you feel? Rough. A little hungover. Or, you know, you don't do enough, and then what do you know? You're not satisfied. I should have done that. I could have done that. Should have, would have, could have. Know this. Whatever you're doing at this time is what you're fully capable of doing at that time. If you were meant or able or capable of doing something else, you would do that. If you're not sure, then your loved ones will show up to help you out. These loved ones are going to be the karmic loved ones that have been with your soul the whole time. You know, that here we are, these amazing beings of light, souls of light, traveling all over the universe, man, in speed of light. So we get around really quick. We get really great gas mileage. So we all decided we're going to pop up here. Why here, of all places? Well, it's 3D. Well, I mean, it means it's three-dimensional. It means you can actually bring the higher dimensions into the physical. So here you actually get to interact with the five senses in this realm. Touch, taste, smell, hearing, seeing. Hey! It's one of the perks of coming back here. You know, because in the other dimensions, we're able to manifest with, you know, our thoughts. You know, literally, you know, tall, short, you know, invisible, you know, like all that. We can do all that. So when we come here, we're literally practicing, you know, we're practicing in the real time. Babaji. Babaji was able to manifest his body, you know, in the physical and then out. People will see him and he's like, I'm out. And he could be here, he could be there. Saint Germain is another one who, you know, they just come and go as they please. They can literally materialize, dematerialize right in front of you. They can materialize crystals and anything else. So can we. But that was like, wait a minute, are you saying that I can manifest this? Well, think about this. When you need a miracle, when you're asking for a blessing, and you've taken the appropriate action, like taking action, you know, co-creating, to help meet it halfway, you know, you do your part, Spirit does his part, and it comes together. And you're like, wow, you've created a miracle. or manifested a blessing. How awesome is that? Not only that, those loved ones that are around you, those other souls that have been around you on this journey with you, they have codes, they have information, they have knowledge, insight, wisdom, just as you do, that you're able to share with each other. And it's like everybody's able to put their piece together and the puzzle forms. Then you're actually able to see it. Like, oh wow, I see the bigger picture now. Before it's just a small, you don't really see all of it, so you miss things. But our loved ones come in, they help us out. Like, hey, did you miss this? Did you see that? It allows. Not everybody's going to be able to be right there in their full unconditional love and forgiveness. You talk about something that sounds so simple and easy. Forgiveness is easy. Love is easy. Love someone, forgive someone. You ever try it? You ever try with someone who really upsets you, really does something to just get your goat? They take your goat? No goat cheese for you. Sure, you would have shared it. Sure, you would have, yeah, you can share it. I got plenty to go around. But no, someone says there's not enough goat cheese or goat milk to go around, so take your goat. So instead of compromising communication, there's drama because the goat has been taken, and plenty of goat cheese and goat milk to go around, and it's healthy for you too. It's good stuff. But not everybody's into that. And some people don't want to share. So it's always important to be open to share. Even when you don't think there's enough to go around, there's always enough to go around. There's more than enough to go around. We live in we exist in a very amazing matrix. Whether it's 3D or holographic or whatnot, we can bring any and everything into manifestation as we see fit, especially if it's of the highest good and in alignment. You ever notice if you're asking for something, you're wanting something, and then you're wondering why it didn't happen? More likely because it wasn't in alignment and it wasn't for your highest good. And the more you keep pushing for that, you're going to be very disappointed with the outcome of that if you keep pushing for that. But in order to learn the lesson, it means you're going to receive that. Ooh, it's like saying to the universe, or no, the universe asks you, what do you want? And you're like, that's a great question. Because the universe is literally saying, may I take your order, please? But you don't know what to place for your order. And you see everybody else is placing their order, but you're like, ooh, I don't know what I want. Or you're allergic to anything. What do you like? What do you not like? What's your favorite dish? And what's your favorite thing? You're not sure? Okay, well, take your time. We'll go get the beverages, and we'll come back to you in a moment. Meanwhile, this person over here, they know what they want. So they're able to place their order, boom, boom, boom. And, man, they got their stuff. They're very happy. They're very pleased. But everybody is getting their orders, but you still haven't placed your order. You still don't know what to ask for. Well, if it's not for your highest good, then you're not going to be happy with it. If you're trying to, I'll try what they're having. Now, hold up now. They might be having shellfish. You might be allergic to shellfish. You might not want to do that. Now, over here, they might be having like pad thai with peanut sauce. But you're allergic to peanuts, so you can't do that either. So for you to like, what do I want? Well, only you know what you want. And that's the great thing about it. If you don't know what you want, that's about the same as being lost. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know how to get where I'm trying to go. Fantastic. Give yourself a little bit of time to sit on that. Meditate with that. Because remember, it's not like a fast food restaurant where you just pull up to the drive-in, place your order, get it, and roll off. One, it's not very healthy for you. It's not healthy at all. Fast food is healthy for you. But it's quick. You're paying for the convenience. You're paying for convenience for something that's not good for you, as opposed to allowing yourself to place your order. You're at the 5-star restaurant. You're ready to order a 5-course meal. The chef says everything's going to be made from scratch. It's all organic. It's going to take a little bit of time now, but once it's all together, you're going to be very, very pleased. And It's nutritious and it's healthy for you. It's going to nourish you, uplift you, fulfill you. Hey, sign me up for that. But my goodness, so many people want the quick, simple, and the easy. Instant gratification. I want it now. Veruca Salt. They want it now. They don't want to wait. That is not always going to turn out very well for you. You know, usually if it's worth doing and you take the time and put forth the effort to do it, you will be very, very pleased with the outcome. If you're fearful of getting started, ask for help. We are here to help you to face our fears, our greatest fears at that. Your fears hold you back. Your fears shut you down. Your fears lock you into place. What is fear? You know, false evidence appearing real. What are we afraid of? Are we afraid of success? Are we afraid of failure? Are we afraid of being acknowledged? Are we afraid of being recognized? Are we afraid of, having a spotlight on us? Are we afraid of speaking our truth? Are we afraid that other people are not going to resonate with what we say? Are we afraid that they're not going to respond or receive it right? Yeah, he who had not sinned cast the first stone, right? But, oh no, stop! Add a little bit more.
Just take a deep breath and I'll cut that out.
People want to know when they come back here. Now look, your higher self, which is it's the part of you that knows better. It's the part of you that has all the answers on the study guide. That's going to be on the test, on the final exam, not only on your beginning test, but also on the midterm and on the final. Your higher self is going to share this information with you, and it's going to, it's going to trickle it down. It's going to share it with you. Now, of course, your mental self is going to be like, what is this? Oh, it's all the information. Okay. Your emotional self is going to be like, oh, that's great, because I was really in fear, really upset, like, what are we going to do? I don't have the answers. And your physical self is like, oh, my stomach is empty. I need something to eat. Give me something. I'm tired. I can't focus. So you get yourself together, and you have all this information. Because literally, as an eternal soul, you're able to, take this information, acquire it. It's like, we're like giant crystals of information, if you will. Our neuron system has all this information that it stores up, right? Our etheric bodies, our Akashic record body, my goodness, we have so much information. We have giant masses of data, knowledge. It's amazing that sometimes we choose not to bring our study guide to the test. And then we're wondering, I don't know how to pass this part of the test. Well, if you had your study guide with you, you can be able to reference that. But in the test of life, so many people choose to disregard their study guide. And they figure, oh, I'll figure it out, or I'll get it, or I'll wing it. You can't fake it. You can't fake it. If you fake it, guess what? You're not going to pass. And then, you know what you're going to have to do? Summer school. You think you're on vacation. No vacation, because you have summer school. So you get all advanced lessons condensed in a very short amount of time where you're having to learn. Perfect example would be life, right? Because the life test, for some people it can stretch all the way out 100 plus years, and for some it's half of that. So whatever it is that you're supposed to be getting, that's your opportunity to be able to bring that in. The middle way, the eightfold path. If you're not sure where you're going, stop and check. Look for signs. Be open for signs. Be open for messages. If you ask, you will receive. If you want to know, you'll be able to. With the middle way, the Goldilocks zone, if you will. Which way is the right way for me? The only way you're going to know is by literally doing. Do it. Which that's why we come back here, to do it. To be able to learn, to be able to apply it. You're going to have the gifts that you had in the past lives with you. So, things that are natural to you, that comes as natural as breathing, these are things that you've already mastered in previous lives that you're able to use for your skills this lifetime. When you come back here, when you're here in the 3D plane, in the 3-dimensional plane, on the earth plane, where, everything is physical or solid, remember that this is the reality where we're not really used to it. I know that sounds crazy, but this is the reality that this is more like the dream to us than the other stuff, because literally we're eternal souls. So being able to manifest and the other dimensions and whatnot, that is very natural for us. Don't take my word for it. When you get back home, you'll know, you'll remember. And then, of course, this is school. The three dimensional is like school, because everything, think about it, the pain is real here. You feel the pain on every single level, spiritual level, emotional level, mental level, and physical level. There's no pain back home, so literally when you come here, you notice how school can be, you have subjects that you love, classes that you love, teachers that you love, and then you have courses that you don't love, tests that you don't love, and classmates that you just, I don't love you. So, and I can't wait to be away from you. Or some you just got to deal with because it's homeroom, and now you got to be there dealing with these people until it's time to be out of homeroom. The middle way is and remember this, you signed a contract when you came here, which apparently I signed a contract too. And I tried to get out of it. I said, I did no such thing. I said nothing. I signed up for nothing. They said, not only did you give us a verbal agreement, a verbal commitment, you gave us a written one. So apparently I got my soul print right there on the contract. So when it is shown to you, your higher self will show it to you. Oh, by the way, this is what you agreed to do. So I said I was coming back here to help others to remember their path and purpose and to do the things that they're called to do. I tried to renege out of that. I absolutely did. I said, I don't recall that at all. It's awful foggy to me. So they said, oh, you need a reminder. So they brought in a magnifying glass. They turned up the lights and they said, right here, Section 3, Article 2, this is what you said. So here I am, once again. But look, it's a win-win situation. All our loved ones are here. So all the ones that helped you out, all the karmic blessings, they're here to continue that as you are with them. And whoever you had missteps with, that's who you're here to be able to repair that, to fix that. Well, how do I know who they are? Well, allow yourself to know this. More than likely, it's going to be your family. The people that absolutely, they don't get you, no matter what you say or do. They look at you as you're the black sheep of the family because you don't fit in, because you're actually doing what you feel is the right thing, and what they're doing does not feel like the right thing, but that is accepted and yours is not. Welcome to the 3D world where nothing really makes sense. It's like, it's a fun house, if you will. It's like a fun house. You see the various mirrors where you're tall, you're short, distorted and whatnot. Yeah, it's a little bit distorted here. But when you go to, life is like a theme park. Imagine that, huh? You're going to have your roller coaster. Man, some people love it. They get tossed and turned and corkscrewed and all that. And then you're going to have others where they want to feel their stomach drop out, as they're plunging or whatnot. And then you got the thrill seekers. They just, they live by the seat of their pants. And then you get those like, look, I don't want no excitement. That's a little too much for me. I just want to be mellow. Everybody's a little bit different. Hey, we all shift and change, literally. You figure you get 4 years of school. No, you don't. Who's that? From kindergarten to your senior year, and my goodness, that's a lot of schooling. And then, of course, you're not done with that, because then there's college or whatnot. There's even more. We're always learning. So you're always learning. And the lesson is always going to be there. And believe you me, that contract is non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. You agreed to come back here to do this just like I did. And right about now, your soul family's starting to show up to help you remember, hey now, there's no getting out of this. And besides, remember when you got to go on all the awesome school trips? The things you live for. So even though school can have its moments of like, ugh, life is like school. Life is school, is it not? So how we learn the lessons, how we apply it, how we teach it, how we share it, how we learn it, how we understand it. Now, everybody's going to have their own unique ways of learning. Some people are able to learn it by seeing it. Other people learn it by hearing it. Other people learn it by doing it. So whatever your method is, and remember, you have multi-talent. So for in various ways, you're going to be able to pick up on all in various different ways. By seeing, by hearing, by doing. But at least allow yourself to be open to experience it. The moment you say you won't, you will. Not only will you do it, you're going to do it tenfold. What you resist persists. So if you're saying, I'm not doing this, guess what? It's got a heat seeker, so it will track you down. It's got a GPS tracker on you. You can't get away. We are here to leave our legacy, which is the blueprint for our other family, soul family, to be able to navigate. We are leaving them the study guide for the 3D world. So if you choose not to complete your study guide, you're not going to be able to pass that on to others to where they're able to understand what's going on. So now here we are literally going through editing the study guide. We're checking to see what mistakes we've made. And believe you me, from the mistakes you made, you're able to apply that to the here and now, which is golden in itself. It's like the Midas touch. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to fail. Because that's how you're able to grow. And remember this. Whenever it's nice and calm and quiet, that means you're in the eye of the storm. You're in the eye of the storm. Because the storm is always raging. It's kind of like the one on Jupiter. That sucker's been going for whoever, how long Jupiter's been going. If you step out of the eye of the storm, just know that there's a lot of debris flying around. And if you don't have your helmet on, you're going to get knocked upside the head, which may knock some sense into you or not. It's, because sometimes we like to be hard-headed. So just know that for those that like to chase the storms, there are also those that like to seek shelter. You're either the thrill seeker or not, which we all are, because we're very complicated individual beings, are we not? Figure this. You've got divine masculine, you've got divine feminine, and then you've got your higher self. So you've got this beautiful blend coming in. You've got your stuff. Then you've got your mom stuff, your dad stuff. Which, what do you know? Because at some point, in your lifetimes, y'all been everything to each other. So, and all these individuals, all these people, like, my goodness, life is like a Shakespearean play. So, whichever one you choose, because he did quite a few of them now, whether it's Hamlet or Othello or, oh my goodness, Midnight Summer Dream, take your pick. There's so many. But my goodness, the cast of characters will show up to fulfill their role, just like we are doing for each other. I'm in summer school right now, because apparently I didn't want to do my lessons and I was slacking off. So next thing that they said, you don't get to graduate just yet. We need you to take care of these other courses. Because apparently I thought a D was acceptable, and I said, no, you're not grandfathered in on this one. We need for you to retake this. And you gotta get a C or higher. That's just lovely. So here I am back again, because I was really like, I'm done. I'm ready to go on vacation. But there's no vacation just yet, because I still got work to do. So I'm gonna do my work. I'm gonna share my experiences with others, because this is what we're supposed to be doing. If you learn it, teach it to others. Share it to others. Because it's, my goodness, you heard what Yahshua said. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man a fish, you can feed himself for a lifetime. So here we are, passing this knowledge and information on to others. Ooh, there's the goosebumps. Love is the way. But not only love and joy. Because when you have love and joy, believe you me, it helps very much with forgiveness. If you don't have love or joy, trying to pull up forgiveness is like trying to, oh my goodness, it's trying to climb Mount Everest. I'm just like, one day, I'm going to get up there and get to the top and get back by lunchtime. I don't know what Mount Everest you climb unless it's a really, really small one. I've never experienced that, not in this lifetime. So allow yourself to remember this. You're an eternal soul having a human experience, and that human experience is what you make of it. It's kind of like the vacation of hell or the best vacation of your life. It can be whatever you choose to make of it. And hey, if you got some people that you really enjoy being with during that time frame, hey, how sweet is that? And mind you, if you're around someone, like there's some family members or loved ones that you get around during holidays or vacation where you're just like, I don't want to be bothered with them. But just remember, look at it like this. They're a beautiful reflection of you as you are of them. So no wonder you drive each other up the wall. Makes sense, right? It's like living with yourself. Talking to yourself. Sometimes I have a conversation I say with myself, I'm like, ooh, that's pretty good. And other times I don't agree with that. So then I have to have a council meeting to see which is the right way to go with that, which, hey, it's whatever way works for you. Whatever way works for you. So, in closing, if you're lost, sit there for a moment and marinate on that. Because, do you know where you're going? Do you know where you want to go? Do you have an idea where you want to head to? If not, well, what good is it going to continue to keep moving forward if you don't know where to go? At least, get some traction. Set your intentions. Be clear about what you want to do. And believe in yourself. My word. Because if you do that, man, that gives you so much equipment to be able to use. And if you're not sure, ask for help. Be open for help. And when you close off your heart, you close off everything. And we're here to be able to open our heart. Remember, the broken heart is what crash landed us here. We came here, but if that bad boy is not working at full capacity, you're not going to be able to take off. Because remember, out of the 7 chakras, the heart seems to be number 4, right? So you've got the root, you've got the sacral, you got the solar plexus and the heart, and then you got the throat, the third eye, and the crown. So it's like the midway, it's like the ambassador, if you will, between the lower vibrations and the higher vibrations. So you want to be able to allow yourself to be in alignment. Now, that's where we get to take the test. Life is the test. If you're able to stay, in balance, you're going to know when you're out of balance. So it's about being able to bring everything back into balance and know that as the pendulum swings one way, it's going to swing back the other. So just know that people that you get along with this time, later on you may not get along with them. And people that you don't get along with now, you may very well down the road get along with them great. And remember this, if you're ever asked that you want to meet up with your twin flame, just know that your twin is the other version of you. So that ain't for the faint of heart, but that's this tale for another day that we'll cover at another time. But for this one, just know that your soul is here, your soul is very much loved, and you've got all kinds of potential and amazing things to do, because we may have this one life, but it's in multiple lives in parallel dimensions. So we got all kinds of lives that we're living all at one time. I know it's a whole other thing, but just know, whatever we're doing, you're doing the right thing, whether you think you are or not, because literally it's all part of the divine plan anyway. So just go with that, honor that, and trust that. And sure, trust is like, sometimes we have issues with trust. That's okay, because that's still what's going to help us to realize, ask. If you're not sure, ask. Make a wish. And allow yourself to know that there is something better is coming. Especially if your thoughts are in alignment with how you feel and what you believe. Faith and trust. Give it a try. You will be very, very pleased with the results of that. I'm walking in the real time with this one myself, and I can tell you what I wanted to renege on and not do anymore, that wouldn't be of service to anyone. So this is what I agreed to do. I wanted to come back to do it. So now that I've been here doing this for quite some time, because remember, if you don't get the lesson, it keeps repeating until you get it. So yeah, it can feel like you're stuck and trapped in Walmart, for hours. You go to get one thing and then you're in there forever. So just allow yourself to know, or you're looking for a good deal on Amazon and then Amazon Prime hits and then you're just, it's Prime Day. It's Prime Day. But that's okay. That's okay, because that's another stuff. See, that's another part of me. Love is where it's at. Love yourself, love others, and if you're struggling to love yourself, then you sure in hell can't love others. So allow yourself to love on you, and because trying to love others without loving on you is trying to fill up the Grand Canyon with a thimble. You're going to be there for a long time. So allow yourself the same love that you give to others. Remember, not too much, not too little, but just right. So when you're able to do that, you're going to find that everything flows. So with that, I love you. Blessings to all of you. Namaste. And aloha. Until we meet again.